Goes back to the victim's bank account and it will show $10,000 having been added.
Oh, so we did that wrong. No, listen, when I hit the zero, it hit another zero. I didn't do it on purpose. It's actually, so you're right, it's too much. So I don't know why it did that. What happened was when I hit the decimal for the zero, when I hit the decimal for the zero, at first it wouldn't enter, and then when I hit it again, it hit another zero, and then it just went through. I didn't do that on purpose.
But this scammer wants gift cards in exchange for that $10,000 which looks like it's been added. When the victim expresses reluctance and wants to check with his bank, he then holds him to ransom by zeroing all the balances on his bank account. This is only a temporary edit on the page and it hasn't really happened, but the victim isn't going to know that.
So you're saying that if I go get this $2,000 for you, transfer it to you, right, then that's a trust thing, and then what I do is after that is give you back the other $6,000 or whatever it is. But I don't understand why we couldn't do that automatically anyway.
Because many stores recognize whenever a person buys a large number of gift cards that it's likely to be a scam, so he'll order $2,000 in multiple stores.
Okay, so you want me to go to, I'm just going to make sure I write all this down, 7-Eleven, and when I get to 7-Eleven, I'm calling you?
These are the words I've been listening for. I want him to hang up so that I can call him and warn him about the scam.
Hey guys, what up? Total Control 871. Take two. See if I can do this again. That was Jim Browning. He runs a very successful anti-scammer YouTube channel. I can only imagine he must be the darling of the banking community. I wouldn't be surprised if he's MI6 or... Anyway, my point. Scams. Okay. I'm going to link Jim's video below, link his channel below. Check it out. It's very interesting to see how that whole thing played out, how it got to that point, and how it eventually played out. Jim also goes on to reference a different victim. He tried to tell this woman that she'd been scammed, and apparently her brain was hacked so bad that even when somebody blew the whistle and pointed out to her just how she had been scammed, she still didn't believe it. I found that very interesting. I referenced Jim's channel for one simple fact. I would like for you to maybe make mental notes, cliff notes, hell, I don't know, write them down if you want. All of the tick boxes, the check marks that a scammer will use. We see in that scam that our victim was terrorized with fear. That victim was made to believe that they would lose everything. You'll have to watch. You'll have to watch. You'll have to watch Jim's channel, the episode that I'll link below, to understand exactly what it is that I'm talking about. Our victim is made to be absolutely terrorized, and they are threatened with loss of money. Just bear in mind all of the check boxes that our fake pandemic will employ while executing the fake pandemic. Let's give a listen. At least a dozen states report record hospitalizations due to COVID-19. That's what our headline says here. Seems pretty ominous. This is from ABC News. Let's check out and hear what it has to say.
We turn now to the pandemic and the new records set over the weekend. Another state has declared an emergency and is now imposing a mask mandate. ABC's Alex Prochet has the latest.
This morning, at least a dozen states reporting a record number of hospitalizations, as nearly half the country sees a new jump in deaths from the coronavirus.
I am placing the entire state of Utah under a mask mandate.
In Utah, the governor's issuing a state of emergency, while Wisconsin saw more than 100 newly admitted patients Sunday alone. And in Indiana, officials are now calling for retired healthcare workers to relieve overworked staff in hospitals and nursing homes. A new study reveals hard-hit states have seen cases quadruple in nursing homes since May. At Notre Dame, new rules for students after this scene over the weekend. The school's now cracking down ahead of the holidays, hoping to keep students from bringing the virus home. University officials sending a letter warning that the school can pause registration for students who fail to appear for testing, and students may not leave the area until they test negative. Meanwhile, another sports team with an outbreak. 9 people connected to the LA Dodgers have tested positive, just days after their third baseman tested positive during the World Series. And now, concern about these street celebrations after Joe Biden was projected the winner of the election.
Remember that we are in a current active pandemic.
But doctors say, just like political rallies have been relatively safe, events like this are unlikely to spread the virus.
These events are outdoors, and most importantly, the majority of people are wearing masks.
As for Joe Biden's inauguration in January, the former head of the FDA says don't expect a typical inauguration because that's when we'll likely be at the height of this latest wave of cases. Alex Perche, ABC News.
You know, I never really know just how much I should be spoon feeding to you guys. I don't want you to think that I'm patronizing you. I don't want you to think that, you know, whatever. But, I mean, things that are very glaringly obvious to me that keep me safe, that keep me informed. I have learned over the decades that these things don't always make themselves obvious to other people. I think I may have told you guys the story about how it is exactly that I never became a drug addict. Yes, you had your Nancy Reagan's just say no thing going on, and I did a little of that, but quite frankly, if I'm just being blunt and to the point here, because I want to be short on my time, I would see the lives of the drug addicts. I can see the life you're living. In 1991, like I said, crash landed here at Jersey. It came from Michigan. Father gave me $150. Catch the Greyhound anywhere but here, and that's exactly what I did. I crashed with my cousin Bernice. She had a crack cocaine problem. She tried to reel me into that world, offering me free cocaine. Free cocaine. It's more of an investment. If I can if I can get you hooked, then that means the money that you're earning on your job, you'll dump it into the pot so that she and all the rest of her crack cocaine smoking friends can have more. So it's a communal crack fund, if you will. And not to be disparaging, because you would have to know my cousin Bernice. She would probably be very blunt with her own life story. And basically my point is that I saw the horror as it was in 1991. And when that little pie, they offered me powdered at first. That little tiny pile of white powder was slid in front of me. Excuse me. It's like my windpipe. It starts contracting when I speak. It's not that anyway. I have to take breaths to relax my windpipe. When the drugs were offered to me and I saw the horror story that was her life, it didn't take really any amount of effort or fortitude or moral fiber to tell her no. It's not that I felt that I was a better person or a person of higher moral fiber. I just simply saw it for what it was. In case you guys haven't been able to track along with my videos and what I say, I am a very, what is it called? Cost risk. A cost risk, or not just risk, but cost payout. What do you want from me versus what do I get? Basically, like that. That's what I'm trying to say. It's a long story. In those early 90 years, 92, 93, let's just say I had a revenue source. And I bought a lot of expensive things, expensive clothing, suede pants, and the point that I am making is that a lot of these, silk shirts and suede, not only were they expensive to purchase, but they were expensive to curate. You can't exactly throw them in a washing machine. Took a lot of money to buy it, took a lot of money to keep it. I quickly fell out of love with expensive clothing. And the same was true with motor vehicles and on and on and on. What is it worth versus, I never wanted to. I need to move on. I'm taking up too much time. That's why I didn't get my mind hacked by the world of drugs. Okay, Jim Brown, God bless his heart. He was trying his best to help that poor guy that was getting his mind hacked. I forgot if I included it in the snippet that I played, but did you did you notice? The gentleman said that he has to walk to the 7-Eleven because he does not own a car and he has never owned a car. Kind of sounds like a liberal, an educated, planet conscious liberal. Now, I really know nothing at all about the guy. That's just my take. Okay. But it's the kind of person who I'm sure is, down with carbon, mask up and follow along with everything that the science says. The person who fell victim to that scam would most likely has fallen victim to the COVID scam. Let's listen and see what it has to say.
Dozen states reporting a record number of hospitalizations.
We hear them talk about a record number of hospitalizations. If I'm not mistaken, they went on to talk about Wisconsin. Wisconsin had 100 cases in one day. I've already checked. Wisconsin has 100 and I forget if it was 39 or 49. Fuck it, I'll round it in their favor. Wisconsin has 150 hospitals for your 100 COVID patients. Record number. Okay.
I am placing the entire state of Utah under a mask mandate.
In Utah, the governor's issuing a state of emergency, while Wisconsin saw more than 100 newly admitted patients Sunday alone.
Yeah, buddy, you know what time it is. Here are the latest stats for Utah. Our governor put the entire state under mandatory mask mandate, forcing everybody to obstruct their airway. If I'm not mistaken now, I want to give you good perspective on the death totals that you're looking at. 6ABC, they're covering the same story. Utah governor, Gary Herbert. I'll link this below, and you can come back and read as you like. I just want to scroll to our numbers. Let's see here. Numbers, where are you? I think this is it. Okay. Now, the positive cases don't really mean anything at all. Here's what I'm drawing your attention to. Okay. It says Utah has more than 130,000 positive cases. The whole world has tens of millions of positive cases that go absolutely nowhere. And the state record 410 people are currently 410 people are currently hospitalized with the virus. I believe I Googled, it was 68 or 69. Utah has about 68 hospitals, okay, for their 410 people. It's the same, the math keeps coming out in all the states that they're blowing these ominous, oh my God, the sky is falling whistle. The math keeps coming out. It's usually somewhere between 5 and 9 patients per hospital. Okay. They've already begun talking about how they know that basically they echoed what I said. They know a lot more. People aren't on the ventilators, so that's important to bear in mind when they start talking about how not every hospital is, ICU ICU capable. Well, a lot of these people don't need to be in ICU. They come in, and we're not hearing anything about discharges, but obviously people are being discharged just fine. They come in. I did read a story. I did read a story that said that these people were staying on average about 3 days, and then they're discharged and they go home and they're just fine. I do want to read some of this story to you because it's some pretty draconian shit. Okay, so as mentioned, we have Herbert here declaring a whole state of emergency because he has 410 people in the hospital in his entire state. This is state of emergency, people. Oh my God, the sky is falling. God help us all. I really didn't know which to tackle first, this paragraph or the next segment in the video from 6ABC, but what the hell, we're here. We'll go with this. In addition to mandating mask wearing, the governor laid out 3 other crucial elements of his emergency declaration, banning people from hosting social gatherings with individuals other than those living in their households for the next 2 weeks, significantly expanding the state's testing operations and suspending all high school and club sporting events and extracurricular activities for the next 2 weeks, with the exception of playoff and championship games. Herbert said, I do struggle with this word, intercollegiate, am I saying that right? Is it collegiate? Said intercollegiate sports are exempt. I see. I'm not doing 2 liters. I'm doing these little nippy nip things. I'm cutting down on my dew. I drink coffee in the mornings. I take my coffee black, believe it or not. Like I said, the diet dew is, I don't drink it for sweetness. It's a caffeine thing. Anyway, where my brain is racked and where I am really just kind of confused here. Like our liberals, our white liberal college educated who would lambast all of us so-called Trump supporters who are always talking about follow the science, follow the facts. Governor Herbert, can you favor us with some scientific printouts? some data, something concrete that shows that if a football game were to be played in your collegiate sport, your playoff, your championship, that it will be immune to any kind of viral transmission. Okay? And then explain to me why, if those said collegiate sport players, championship players, were to, after the game, say their goodbyes, and then what? They come home to their respective houses and and hold on. And then, in some type of witch doctor, ooh-ee, ooh-ah-ah, ting-tang, walla-walla, ding-dang, something happens to these players where they are no longer immune. Were they to come home to their respective houses, pick up their own footballs, and from what I understand, it's a bit of a American tradition. Thanksgiving, not only do you come over, family members will get together a game of scrimmage in the front yard, backyard, and they'll throw around the pigskin. This apparently is a COVID hotspot. We see he's saying that this is going to damn everybody. It's a hotspot, living in your households, but apparently the collegiate stuff is immune. How do you even get that data? I mean, is it the players themselves that get swabbed to come up with this? If it's a change of venue, are you swabbing the venues? But then again, you also say that it's not really a surface transmitted virus, that it's airborne. Okay? But then again, you kind of flip-flop on that, and then you start talking about how it is surfaces. Huh, I see. Under new orders, businesses will be required to make their employees wear masks and encourage patrons to do the same. Those that don't comply will be subject to fines from the state's labor commissions. Okay. He goes on to say, masks do not negatively affect our economy. I want you to listen to this part. And wearing them is the easiest way to slow the spread of virus, even though there's no scientific data on that. Said Herbert, who did not seek re-election after serving 2 terms and will leave office this January. Suddenly everything clicks. I think Herbert here has a really plum position in a liberal elite, in a probably some liberally, something to do with virus, something to do. This is a person who is etching out his next job, and he sees that with the liberal, the deep state government that has taken office. Herbert also warned that anyone caught, this is very important here, caught sponsoring or organizing events in violation of his social distancing orders will be prosecuted and could be subject to fines up to $1,000 per occurrence. What about these people? Would these people also be subject to these fines? I'm just saying, Herbert. Are you going to enforce this law evenly throughout the state? This is a picture of their Notre Dame game. This was featured in the video that I was playing for you. They're saying that this is super spreader event. I'm completely confused. What's the difference between this and this? Can somebody explain it? This is legal, illegal. Legal, illegal. I'm confused. How is it that one venue can be legal and the other one not? Just because one features a progressive agenda and the other features normal everyday life. Let's go back to our video.
At Notre Dame, new rules for students after this scene over the weekend. The school's now cracking down ahead of the holidays, hoping to keep students from bringing the virus home. University officials sending a letter warning that the school can pause registration for students who fail to appear for testing. And
were you listening to that? I've tried in prior videos to tell you what this is all about. This is segregation. This is segregation that's been repackaged, okay? What they're trying to tell you in this is that if you want your child present in this classroom, in one of these seats, then you're going to comply with the mark of the beast. They're going to wear the mark of the beast on their face, and they're going to take the mark of the beast vaccine. And they're going to do the testing, the medical test, forced into medical tests and procedures that they don't want. All of this is going to be required for quality in-person education. That's what this is all about. It's got nothing to do with the virus. They're just simply trying to find a way. Because if you recall, because that's the deep state, their entire thing hinges on you not being able to retain moves on the chessboard in prior years as the game goes on, okay? I, for one, do take note of the various moves on the chessboard. If you remember, one of the big talking points for Democrats was free college, free. And of course, the deep state oligarchy plays both sides of the political aisle. That's how they take shelter. That's how they preserve themselves. That's how they keep themselves hidden, by playing both sides of the political aisle. They understand that it's very progressive and liberal to make the college free, but they also understand that to do that, it would bring down some of the walls of segregation, okay? And they don't want to do that. It's how the deep state maintains control over the population. I could also right now go off into a whole rant on, for some of my very first subscribers who remembers fiscal backdraft, remember how I talked about people are trending away from wanting things? Hasn't this fake pandemic changed all of that shit where suddenly people are hoarding? Okay, the fiscal backdraft, like the movie Backdraft, I likened it unto the want and desire to engage in commerce is like the oxygen in a room that's burning. Once that want and desire has been used up, then you have a volatile situation on your hand where you're about to have a serious economic collapse. So what our deep state did was simply infuse the economy with want and desire. There's no more gold backing our bills. They just simply fear-mongered you, just like our scammer in the Jim Browning video. The scammer used fear to get you to do the things that it wants you to do. That's what this pandemic has done. It has scared you into doing the things that it wants you to do. If you want to be in this classroom, if you want quality education, if you want to escape the crap education that's about to be handed out to everybody, if I'm not mistaken, what was it? Was it New York? One of the states just canceled all of their in-person learning. Everything is now virtual. Why? Because the deep state also understands that billions of dollars are sunk into public education. Billions every year. They're looking to recoup that money. They're looking to take that money and use it for other things, okay? What that is exactly, I don't think it's going to be for our benefit at all. Instead, they're going to hand you your stupid little tablet, tell you and all the children that you keep having and won't stop having to just sign into your tablet, and that's going to be your public education. Yes, it's quality. I'm sure they'll do some lovely news segments on how Apple and Samsung and Acer and whoever the fuck else is handing out all these wonderful computers and blah, 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 blah. And it'll be a feel-good story, and it'll trick you into thinking that these people are getting quality education. No, they're not. Quality education is going to be reserved for other types of people. And I'm not talking about a particular race. I really am not. It's going to be a new type of segregation that's going on. Segregation is getting a facelift. And I don't think you're smart enough to figure out and follow along exactly what's happening. Did you also hear when they said that your child will not be allowed to leave? So they're going to be forced into taking the test, a medical procedure. Otherwise, they'll be kicked out of school, basically. You're going to be forced into this examination. Forced medical exams are now the future. The present, should I say. It's not the future, it's the present. They're here. There's no more theorizing. Forced medical exams, otherwise they're going to kick you out of school, wipe out your credits, thousands of dollars that you sank into their bullshit college is now wiped out. If you were on if you were on scholarship, you will lose your scholarship. Any hope for a real brighter future, any hope for a future in education that's going to liberate you from a fast food drive-through. So God only knows how long those jobs are going to be around. So any job that you're hoping that will liberate you from a UBI proletarian hell. That's what I'm trying to say. If you want to get liberated from a UBI proletarian hell, then you're going to submit to their forced medical exams. So their PCR tests can take the fragments of RNA in your nose and cycle it into a positive. So they can use these tests, because that's what they're fearful of right now. If students don't submit, if the testing drops off, okay, because remember, everybody's still outside the hospital. Hospitals are completely empty, okay? Excuse me, I don't want to misreport. Hospitals have between 5 and 9 patients, so there you go. If you want a chance at a future outside of a proletarian hell, then you will submit to this testing and concentration camp. That's what they're saying. People think that I'm nuts. You're conspiracy theorists, you're crazy, you wacky Trump people, even though I don't identify as a Trump person, but you wacky people. They just told you that you're not allowed to leave the campus. Campus, concentration camp. I'm sorry, what's the difference? It's a prison. You can't leave. Okay? And how are they going to go about enforcing that? Did you stop and think about that? Is it a situation where you can just, leave your phone behind? And then what's the university going to say when they say to you, we noticed that your phone sat idle for 3 days? Okay? Or maybe only idle after, 6 hours? And somebody comes knocking on your door, 6, 8 hours, no activity on your phone, which means that the university is in your phone, watching you. You don't have any privacy. Were any of you guys stupid enough to download those COVID apps? I think it started in Pennsylvania, then Delaware, then Jersey, and New York. I think it was the same engineer that developed the app. I think all the eastern states, they all use the same app. And they all said that it's so aggregated, it's Bluetooth, it's not tracking you, we promise. Well, guess what? If that's all true, how come you can't use it if you're a juvenile? because laws are very different for juveniles, aren't they? Yes. See? You have to follow along everything that's. I know, it's a lot. It's a lot that's moving. Speaking of moving, let me move on.
University officials sending a letter warning that the school can pause registration for students who fail to appear for testing, and students may not leave the area until they test negative. Meanwhile, another sports team with an outbreak. 9 people connected to the LA Dodgers have tested positive, just days after their third baseman tested.
Okay. This is the punishment that he's getting for pulling his mask down. Okay. Were you paying attention when they said 9 people connected to the LA Dodgers? So not 9 LA Dodgers, not even 9. They said if it were sports directors, coaches, assistant coaches, they would have said that. They just said, so these are people that are really outside the team on the periphery. On the periphery. Okay. Friends of team members? Maybe yes, maybe no. So we don't really know exactly, who it is that's supposedly tested positive. And again, that's the whole PCR rant right there as far as the positives go.
Remember that we are in a current active pandemic.
But doctors say, just like political rallies have been relatively safe, events like this are unlikely to spread the virus.
I really don't know. I'm just flabbergasted. They just told you in that segment right there, the anchor says, scientists say that political rallies are safe and they won't spread the virus. Political rallies are safe and won't spread the virus. I'm confused. I thought you said political events were somehow immune. And if it had something to do with some people not wearing masks, then explain to me why those who tested positive didn't all end up in the hospital. I mean, hell, as far as I'm concerned, we could ask that question of basically all the tens of millions of people who test allegedly positive, excuse me. How come they're not in the hospital? I'm confused. I did the math. What was it? Was it Utah? Was it Utah? 130,000. Out of 130,000, and what was it? The 410 that died. I did the math, and it was 0.32% that are in the. No. Excuse me. Sorry. It's 0.50% for the mortality, because it was 658, if I'm not mistaken, out of 130 cases positive. 658 died, so that's 0.50% mortality. Again, if you want to link that to the virus, the comorbidity, my God. These deaths don't come with medical reports, and you're supposed to just trust, like how our poor victim trusted the authoritative sounding scammer. Authoritative sounding scammer. And of course, how our our female scam victim who, even after being told that you were scammed, hell, the money's even gone from your fucking account and you're still denying it. Who knows? Maybe deep down she does understand that she got scammed, but she's just too embarrassed to come to terms with it. It's better to push it away. What? Like a rape? Push it away like a rape. Maybe that's what's going on with the country right now. You know? Is that what's going on? You know, I'm curious. Did our governor make illegal red meat? How about real butter? Cigarettes. Utah. Hell, this is the Mormon state. You know, aren't they just about halfway there anyway? You know? So all the things that cause heart disease, my dear Governor Herbert. Apparently heart disease took out 3,000, almost 4,000 of your citizens. Is there a reason, in comparison to your 658 deaths? Okay. Cancer, isn't that linked? Things like red meat and, well, health. Depends on who you're talking to. Good Lord. You got some people out there that think breathing air will give you cancer. Okay. Stroke. Again, all the bad things that people do, comorbidities, bring on strokes. 888. Chronic lower respiratory disease. That's 826. Suicide, we won't count, even though this pandemic is driving a lot of people to suicide, me included. Diabetes, again, another disease that's caused by a lot of comorbidities, bad habits, kidney disease, and then, of course, there's good old flu and pneumonia. Flu and pneumonia that killed 334. Okay? So I suppose they could take their, 658 and say, oh my God, it was a 100% increase in Utah deaths. So see how they do? 100%. Oh my God. 100%. Oh my God. It's 100% increase in deaths. To scare and fear you into thinking that deaths are really that far out of the normal. Just because you don't see a funeral procession every day, multiple times a day, doesn't mean that death isn't happening. A lot of times people are just too goddamn poor to afford a funeral. Ever think about that? Death happens, has happened, and will continue to happen. Coming up on 40 minutes here, and I don't know if I can really make you understand any more than what I have. Like I said, like I started this out, I'm not trying to be condescending. I'm not trying to be insulting. I want you to understand what's happening to you. Do you understand what's happening to you? They're using all the hallmarks of a huckster, a flim-flam artist. I'm not going to pull it up right now, but what was it? CNN, Democratic primaries, when they started that whole thing. The black sackcloths and the tiles inside, and how they were going to allegedly randomly choose Democratic people running for president. Democratic candidates. And because there were so many of them, they would be on, 2 or 3 nights? And as they were pulling names and tiles out of the black sackcloths, I kind of got that feeling that, haven't I seen this before somewhere? And then it dawned on me, yeah, you have. You've seen it on any number of the variety talent shows that are on TV. It's just a magician's trick. Yes, I do believe that CNN outsourced and hired a magician to stage the illusion of random picking. So corporate media, that's my whole point in saying that corporate media steered and directed who the Democratic nominee would be. The people did not choose. Corporate media did. All right, I hope you're paying attention. You're talking about mandatory state, because I'm gonna tell you right now, the instant that shit breaks here in New Jersey, I will be out there, bold, barefaced, daring anybody to bring violence onto me, because their violence will be met with violence. That is 100% guaranteed. Okay? You're declaring your national emergencies with your pitifully filled hospitals. You know, what was it they had here? I'll show you a quick trick before I leave you.
The kind of thing that has got to stop. There's an end to this. There's an end. We see light at the end of the tunnel with the vaccines coming. But right now, before the holidays, we have to learn to mitigate. And that means wearing a mask, social distancing, and washing our hands. I always said, Lana, that we should behave as though this virus is radioactive, that anything we touch conceivably could have the virus on it. So
anything we touch? But I thought we were going with the mask story. I thought touch transmission wasn't a big deal anymore. Oh boy, the deep state's changing its story again. What are you going to do?
Well, as you know, Lana, people have not been mitigating. They've not been wearing masks. They've not been keeping social distancing. The whole effort to combat this virus has been politicized to some degree. And as a result of that, you have people the numbers are increasing. And particularly in the Midwest and in the Western states, the numbers are off the wall. Now, we're not as bad as Europe, which is way ahead of us in both fatalities and hospitalizations. But in some areas,
notice how they talk about fatalities, hospitalizations, yet the reality is they're doing nothing but showing you an empty classroom. An empty classroom with bagged up things on it. It's subliminal messaging, trying to make you think of body bags, trying to make you think of death. Hey CBS, if you want us to see body bags, why don't you just show it? I'm just saying, if you want us to think of death, why don't you show death? Assuming it's in ample proportion, the way you report.
Some areas of the country where there are rural hospitals and not enough ICU beds, things have become very problematic, much as we saw in the Northeast back in the early spring.
Well, how stressed are hospitals across the country at this point?
Very stressed. You know that in the Northeast we have an abundance of MICU beds, and back in the spring we were stressed. We had to open up 3 additional ICUs in our own institution. So you don't have that luxury in small towns and small cities in the West, where they may be servicing a radius of 100 miles. So consequently, they have to bring in extra people, extra intensivists, extra critical care nurses, and advanced practice nurses. And it is very difficult because it's really trying on the system. It's very stressful for everybody. I can experience that. I did experience that myself back in the early spring, and I can only imagine what people are going through in the Midwest.
Okay, so our doctor talks about how these Midwestern hospitals are stressed to the max and that they're supposedly overrun. Now, you and I already know that we've already run our math and that On average, each hospital only has, it's something like 6 or 7 patients on average. Like I said, New Mexico is pretty much the highest one with 9 patients, okay? So like 6, 7, maybe 8 patients per hospital. Now, our doctor said that it's overrun and that it's stressed and that not every single hospital is capable of or should I say, not every, what he's trying to communicate there and what I just played for you, not every last single one of the hospitals that I'm referencing when I do my numbers is ICU ready or ICU capable. Okay, but then again, just a little bit later on in the video, we hear the doctor saying this, contradicting himself.
But, and also I can happily say that we know a lot more about treating the disease, and people are being kept off of ventilators as much as possible. High flow oxygen, BiPAP, CPAP is what is being used right now to control breathing.
So there you go. Apparently, because they supposedly know so much more, the ICU units aren't really needed. He just literally told you that ICU care isn't needed as much as it once was. Like I said, I'm more than willing to entertain the possibility that COVID once upon a time was something very serious. I just don't think that it's that thing any longer. All right, I'm hitting 50 minutes here, over 50. This thing is going to chop me off any second. Hopefully you've been listening. Hopefully you've been able to pay attention. I also wanted to show you, I couldn't quite remember where the video was. Italy, they're saying that it's so bad that people are in cars pulling up to hospitals getting oxygen. I couldn't help but notice, but there was a tent, makeshift MASH hospital tent, erected near the entrance of the hospital, kind of leading you to believe that people are in their cars getting medical treatment. What? Because the hospital or the MASH tent is so filled and overrun? If that's the case, take the cameras inside, blur your faces. But if indeed the MASH hospitals in Italy are overrun, where patients have to get oxygen through the window of their car, then prove it to us. That's it for now, guys. Total Control 871.